first problem on the note says, at the TX Design Company, the average starting salary for a new designer is $33,600, but the actual salary could differ from the average by as much as $1,560. So it could be that much above the average, or it could be that much below the average. They said write an inequality to determine if the salary falls in this range and then solve the inequality. So we're going to say the difference between X is going to be the actual salary that is earned, and then 33,600 is the average. So the difference between the actual salary that is earned and the average is going to be less than or equal to 1,560. So X represents the actual, yeah, hold on, zoom in, hold on, I can do this, and then you're like, Mr. Rice, I got further away. Now it's not terribly zoomed in. Perfect. Is that better? Okay. So the difference between the salary you actually earn and the average salary is going to be, at the most, $1,560. Okay. So now if we think about this, how do we solve the inequality? This is less than, so we're going to say it's between 1,560, negative 1,560, and positive 1,560. And then how do we solve for X? Yeah, add that number to all three sides. I don't know if you'd call it all three sides. Left side, right side, middle. So the salary that you could earn is between this number and this number. Ooh, look at all those calculators coming up. I like it. So what is the lower amount? Yes. 32,040. Okay. And then what's the higher? Okay. Now, anytime it's a problem like this that is like a story problem or a word problem or a real life situation, whatever you want to call it, we're going to write the answer in a sentence because that just tells us the answer in context. So I'm going to say the salary that someone would earn is going to be between $32,040 and $35,160. That's their salary is going to be in between that. Okay, so we will say the starting salary for a new designer is between $32,040 and $35,160. Yeah. They won't be the majority, but there'll be a few. Yeah. You should, or else you can put the word dollars. All right. Example 2 says, Caleb is a machinist at Golden Eagle Chopper Shop. To ensure the reliability of motorcycle engines produced at the shop, Caleb machines each cylinder to 4.01 inches in diameter with a tolerance of 0.0002 inches. What do you guys think it means when it says tolerance? Yeah.
Basically, when it gets heated up, it can expand up to that amount.
There you go. maybe. I think, yeah, that's that. So that would be why. That would be why you need to not have it be a certain size. But when it says tolerance, it's meaning it can be that much off. You are tolerant of it being that much off because it's got to have space to expand and whatever. All right. So here we're trying to write an inequality to determine what is unacceptable. Does that make sense? So we don't want to say how wide can it actually be. We want to say what's going to be a problem. So we're going to say the actual width, or sorry, the actual diameter of the cylinder minus 4.01. So the difference between what we actually get out of the machine and 4.01, if that number is greater than 0.0002, that's when we have a problem. So if it's less than or equal to that, that's okay. But they want us to know what is unacceptable. So we are writing an inequality for what would not work. Does that make sense? So we got to be careful of the wording because sometimes you're doing the answer of what is allowed and sometimes you're doing the answer of what is not allowed. And so this problem is kind of like the opposite of the last problem. Scott?
Wouldn't it be okay? I was thinking it would be greater than or equal to 0.002.
So the reason it's not greater than or equal to is because if we were going with what was acceptable, that would be less than or equal to. So if we're going with what is not acceptable, we're going to drop that equal to. Okay? All right, so how do I solve this one? Yeah, greater. So we're going to say x minus 4.01 is less than negative 0.0002, or x minus 4.01 is greater than positive 0.0002. Okay, and then what do we do? Yeah, so I'll add the 4.01. So we've got 4 point, what was it? 0102, and this one was 0098. Okay. So in a sentence, we would say an unacceptable diameter is one that is less than 4.0098 because it wouldn't be a tight enough fit, it'd be too loose, or one that is greater than 4.0102 because that would be too big altogether. So it would be unacceptable if you're less than that or greater than that. It's got to be in between those. Okay. Right? But it kind of makes sense because anytime you're dealing with construction or parts or something like that, you want to have your measurements pretty exact or else there can be consequences to that. Make sure we always include units. So either you have the two little lines to show that it's inches or you write the word inches. Okay. You can put IN. Mm-hmm. All right, so the next one says an essay contest requires that essay entries consist of 500 words with a deviation of less than 30 words. We're writing an inequality to represent the number of words that's permitted. So how would we set that up? Yeah, how far you can deviate or how far off that you can go.
So it'd be x minus 500
Mm-hmm.
is would be greater than or equal to 30 words.
So think about it saying this is what we're allowed to have.
Oh, so it'd be
Less than 30. Now, based on the wording of the problem, can we have equal to, or should it just be less than? It's less than because they said less than 30 words. They didn't say 30 words or less. That would be an equal to. They said less than 30 words. It seems kind of silly, but that's how they worded the problem. Okay, so how do we solve this one? Less than, okay. So negative 30, between negative 30 and positive 30. And then what should we do? 500. So what do you guys think is the hardest part about this assignment? Yeah. Figuring out which way the inequality goes and then figuring out if it has an equal to or not. So the wording is very important of these. Are you saying what's acceptable or are you saying what's not acceptable? And should you include the number or not include the number? Yeah. All right, so this would be 470 and 530. So what should we say for our sentence?
Permitted is between 470 and 530.
Mm-hmm. So the number of words Now this time, because I said the number of words in the beginning of the sentence, I don't have to say 470 words, 530 words, because I already said my unit of measurement in the beginning of the sentence. Okay. A candy manufacturer puts 240 pieces of candy in a bag. The bag can be off by 8 pieces at the most. Write an absolute value inequality to represent an unacceptable amount of candy. Okay. So what do we start with? X minus 240, okay? And we want to show what is unacceptable. Greater than 8, okay. So why do we not have the equal to? Yeah, so you can have 8 pieces off, but you can't have more than that, okay? So more than that, we're saying what is unacceptable here. If we were writing the inequality for what is acceptable, we would say it's acceptable to be less than or equal to 8. It is unacceptable to be greater than 8. Does that make sense? Because that's talking about acceptable, and we are writing the inequality for unacceptable. So the way the sentence is phrased, it says that it is acceptable to be less than, to be within 8. At the most 8. But the problem is asking what is an unacceptable amount of candy. So the opposite of that would be unacceptable, and greater than 8 would be the opposite of that. Okay? All right. So now what do we do? Greater. So we're going to say x minus 240 is less than negative 8, or x minus 240 is greater than 8. Do you guys like how I wrote accept and unaccept instead of acceptable and unacceptable? I unaccept that. No? Nobody? Okay. You guys are so great with the pity laugh. I feel very supported here. Yeah. Yeah, like, ah. Like laugh words like, that's not funny, but I support you.
Yeah. Good effort.
Yeah. All right, so -8 plus 240. 232 and 248. And so how should we write our sentence? But not between. Between is acceptable. So we would say if it has less than 232, that's not enough candy. So that like sacrifices our integrity as a candy company that our bags are not full. If it's more than 248, that's not acceptable because we're giving away candy for free. Does that make sense? So we're going to say an unacceptable amount is less than 232 or more than 248. Pieces of candy. Or I could say, if I said in the beginning, the amount of candy that's acceptable or that's unacceptable, if you said the amount of candy in the beginning of the sentence, you don't have to say it again. I did not say it in the beginning, so I have to put it somewhere in my sentence. So it is unacceptable to have less than 232 pieces of candy. Or more than 248. Okay. How do we feel about those? They're okay? All right. They can mess with your brain a little bit, but they're not terrible.